ज्योतिर्भेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। उकारस्वन्धकारो वै उकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
What did we do last time? Did we do it together?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try to do it together again. Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Paradbrahma Tattvam
युवानं वशिष्ठान्ते वसकृषिगणे आवृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमरूपं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे। वटविटसमीपे भूमिभागे विषण्णं सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारात् त्रिभुवनगुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जननमरणदुःखक्षेत्रदक्षं नमामि। चित्रं वटधरो मूले प्रसिद्धा शिष्या गुरुयुवा गुरोस्तु मौनं व्याख्यानं शिष्यास्तु छिन्नसंशयाः। निलये सर्वविद्यानां विषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः।
ॐ
विश्वम्भरपरदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्भूतं यथा निद्रया। यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राणनिर्विकल्पं पुनः माया कल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतम्। मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयः स्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। दैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकम् असत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान्। यत् साक्षात्करणात् भवेन पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नानाचित्रघटोदरस्थितमहा दीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरण द्वारा बहिस्पन्दते। जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनुभाति एतत् समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। नमयिदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये देहं प्राणमपीन्द्रियाण्यपि चलां बुद्धिं च शून्यं विदुः श्रीबालान्दजडोपमास्तमहि भ्रान्ताकृशं वादिनः मायाशक्तिविलासकल्पितमहा व्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये.
You got it. Good, good spacing and excellent. Really sounded very well. So we, in the last class 2 weeks ago, we finished with verse number 25. Again, I would remind you that it will be very useful for you to review the previous classes just before, sometime before you come to the class. So it's a very good habit. So what we were discussing in the verses 24 and 25, and just the general concept, that both, well actually even before 24, even the 22, 23, the general concept of it was that both Jnana Shakti, the power to know, which is very fundamental to our existence, and the power to do, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti, which is also very, very important for us to in our lives. Both of them really come from Ishvara, Parameshwara, Bhagavan. So we should know that, we should understand that. It is not just something we accept it and say, oh, so people will say, even in India, for example, as we were growing up, you know, the average family will say, God is everywhere. Even here, you know, people say God is everywhere. But you know, you don't really, that's just a figure of speech. God is everywhere. It doesn't really mean anything. Really, we can still fight with each other and we can call each other names and so on. And then we say God is everywhere. So we need to go much beyond that and say, how? It is a fact, of course, but we don't understand the nature of the fact. And that's the beauty of our inquiry, is that, yes, what is said just in a simple word, Sarvatma Brahma, or God is everywhere, is to be understood. And if we understand it, then it's a great thing. So here, the nature of the teaching of Vedanta is to show us the logic, the fact, the inevitability of the ever-presence of Ishvara. So there we saw, if you remember how we started this particular aspect of the concepts, is that the sunlight, the light all comes from the sun. And there's only a single source of light. In this case, the secondary sources of light, which eventually also can be traced to the energy of the sun also. But at least on the surface of it, one can even say that no, there's, you can just, you know, just start a electric bulb. Right now the sun is gone, but you can have an electric bulb. So it's a source of light is something different. That's one of the things that the human beings have now discovered, is to store the sun's energy and use it. And but any other than that, you see that the sun is the source of light everywhere. And for different people at different situations and so on and so forth. So similarly, there also the very source of I know. So this should be understood. So for example, one should say that really when we take birth in a given form, like a baby, and really babies of everywhere. In fact, those will come in a minute as to what the different kind of jivas there are, this will come today. But all jivas, whether it's human babies or animal babies or something, as soon as the baby is born, it is given the power to know. The mother and the father did not invent knowingness. They don't, all the mother and the father do is to have the mechanism to create a baby. But the gift of knowing comes automatically. And in fact, if the child is born with some severe defect, where in fact the thoughts are not there, hopefully it doesn't happen all that much. That's an exception to the rule. So, but the knowingness comes from Ishvara. So the knowingness is everywhere. And you don't have to do anything. You can change some of the parameters of the baby, but really knowingness is natural to the baby, and it all comes from Ishvara alone. You don't have to. Mother and father don't have to manufacture knowingness. It's like you go to a hospital and then you say, well, have you made a manufacturing of knowingness for this baby yet? You'll say, no, not yet. We're still waiting. Right now, he doesn't know anything, but we're still waiting. No. Just see the beauty of it. The baby is born with knowingness. All babies. And the expression of knowingness comes from sense organs. Knowing what? And so knowingness also. So here, something that we are going to discuss in very fundamental terms in the first chapter of the Panchadashi, that Ishvara, in creating the universe, okay, so does it in two forms. I was replying to Sri Krishna's email, and so just fresh in my mind, that that Ishvara makes this shrishti in the form of what is to be known, and so that comes from a very heavy dose of tamoguna. So tamoguna means that you have to have some solidity. You don't have to have solidity. You can have things that you know, some concepts that you know. But generally speaking, we see things that are very specific, have form. So that comes from tamoguna. And then from sattvaguna comes the manufacturing of knowingness through the various sense organs. Through eyes, knowing what? Forms through the eyes. And then feeling through the twak. And then, smells, etc. So there are various sense organs that channel your knowingness in a given direction. That's also been given. It may have some defects. It's very possible somebody may be born deaf. But So it's interestingly enough that the organs of knowing and organs of action, indriyas, are very subtle. And even if somebody has ears, and that happened just recently, I think one of our friends, so what they do, interestingly enough, is they test the hearing of the babies. And when they did that, they found out that the baby cannot hear. And so one of our friends' grandchildren, just in the last 4 or 5 months, I found out. And so they found that the ears are all there, and there's no defect in it, but the indriyas of hearing was defective. And so it's a huge problem. So now they have to figure out whether it can be surgically repaired, and if not, then some other thing, or the person just stays deaf. So those are exceptions. But the point is that the ability to know is given to you. Given to you. Really speaking, this is the thing, is that we always think about where is Ishvara, what is, this is so obvious that really the mechanism for everything that we are is given to us. Body is given to us, mind is given to us, knowingness is given to us. And so you talk about the ever-presence of Ishvara. God is everywhere. It's not a statement without any meaning. And so the appreciation of how this is the case requires some pointing out and learning. And so anyway, so that's the Jnana Shakti all comes from Ishvara. And then the only thing that the all beings can do is to manipulate it and to protect it. One interesting thing to remember is that the consciousness, which is the basis of all beings, is not given to you. You are that. Given to you means there's something that is an equipment is given to you. But you are not given. You are already there. So both sides of it. So in our enquiry, as we go into the clarity of our relationship with Ishvara and so on, so the Nirguna Brahma is not given to us, it is me. Saguna Brahma equipment is given to me. So my relationship with Ishvara has two forms. One is that I see that he is the creator of this Srishti, master of the Srishti, presence of the Srishti, through the very equipment that I have. But more than that, I am the very nature of Ishvara as consciousness. In fact, in the Ramayana, there is a story that Swami Chinmayananda told us, exactly the same thing. That one time Rama and Hanuman, Anjaneya was very busy doing things and this, that, or the other, and Rama was sitting there just taking a rest and just watching him do his work, and he says, "Wow, you're a great person, really wonderful." He says, "Sit down, I want to talk to you. What is our relationship? Let's talk about our relationship." So Anjaneya was a Jivan Mukta. He knew the whole thing very well. So he says, "I don't have time." He says, No, sit down, I want to talk to you." you are a great bhakta of me, but then I want to just talk to you. So he says, hey Rama, what are you talking about? You know that. I am in your army. That's one relationship. And not only that, I understand you are the Lord of the whole creation. I understand that. And I'm also your bhakta, great devotee of you. I know, I appreciate who you are, what your character is, your dharma. And he says, but at another level, you and I are one and the same. One and the same. There's no difference between us. So Rama also smiled. He says, good, good, good. You understand it. So this is the fact that for each one of us, we have to grow into a very clear understanding that in one part I am a bhakta of Ishvara. I'm of course in the creation, I'm a creation of Ishvara. A creation of Ishvara. So there is a created-creator relationship. And then there is a devotee and devotion relationship. But at the deeper level, there is identity. How identity? Because the complete independence of the self, unborn, always there, not subject to any kind of limitations whatsoever, not possible to die. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita na bhuyaha. Not possible. He says, if you think that you can kill someone, you are mistaken. You cannot even kill, leave aside the Atma, you can't even kill the space. And not possible to, so that's the common thing. That is our common, there's only one Atma. And it is Paramatma and Jivatma, it's the same thing, two names of the same thing. So that is our challenge, that's what our promise is, that in addition to being devoted to Ishvara, I discover the identity with Ishvara. So the Jnana Shakti may be given to you, but the one to whom it is given is not created, not given to you. You are already. You are not born. Only the equipment is born, you are not born. And so the only thing that we have to do is to discover it. Not accept it, but to really understand it. That the self cannot be different. There's only one self. Anyway, going back to the seeing the presence of you where we understand that through the various logical steps that the Jnana Shakti comes from Ishvara. And then the interesting thing is that the Kriya Shakti also comes from Ishvara. Both the Shakti. It's not as though only the Jnana Shakti comes. And really, just one of the things that we all have to aspire to know and to know is that I am not the Karta. I am not the Bhokta. I am just the Sakshi. Kartritvam and Bhoktritvam is not my quality. As it appears to me to be, I am the one who did it. No, it's very, this is the thing, this is what we have to really aspire to know. Swami Maheshananji gave this example that, for example, when the king orders his army to take to battle, then the battle is being done by people, But the Raja doesn't do anything, and yet he gets reports and he says, yes, I won. I won. I gave the example of Indira Gandhi. He is very critical of Indira Gandhi at various times. He was born in that time frame. But he also makes a lot of comments about her. So he says when Indira Gandhi liberated the Bangladesh, she didn't do anything, but she made sure that it was done well. She complimented her. And in the end, she made a speech that we won. I'm very happy that we liberated Bangladesh. So even though she didn't do anything, and same thing is true when a car, say I came very fast. Hey, you didn't come fast, you were just sitting there. The car came fast. And similarly is the situation, that the kartritvam and the bhoktritvam, as our understanding becomes clearer and clearer, the end point of that is that all, it's just like in the, I believe in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, guna guneshu vartante. Dhiraha na sajjate, something like that. Guna guneshu vartante. So he says that the hands and the eyes and so on, these are the various gunas. They are working. But the Atma doesn't have any time to move, doesn't have any space to move. It is already there. It cannot move, it cannot do anything. So this is what our aspiration is. Not going to be easy, but this is what the end point is. That things happen and you don't do it yourself. It just happens by itself. Anyway, so the Jnana Shakti and then the Kriya Shakti also comes from Ishvara Lord. There we saw that the Kriya Shakti has the Kriya, not the Kriya Shakti, but the Kriya, the Karma, the action, has 2 fundamental parts to it. So one is, this is number 24, Kriya Nama Parispanda Parinama Swarupini. Parispanda is one aspect of Kriya and Parinama is the other aspect of Kriya. And so we did all of that, so I won't repeat that. But then the both of the Kriyas, the Shakti of that was already given to you by Ishvara. And we so on Utpadya, Prapya, Samskarya, Vikarya, etc. Karoti, Gacchati, Unmashti. Also we saw all of that. So now verses number 26 to 30, which I think we'll finish today, all of them, summarizes the conceptual points that the last few verses are going. So let's you know what we can do? Let's just chant all 26 to 30 together and we'll go through it rather quickly. It's really not that simple to do. So you can just follow after me. Number 26, starting with 26. Shivo Brahmadideheshu Sarvagya iti bhasate Devatiryang manusyeshu Kinchit gyah taratamyataha Kinchit gyah taratamyataha Jarayujondajaschaivam Svedajah punarudbhitaha Ete chaturvidha purva Kramo shunyo Kramashonyutanivritaya. So actually you can say, let's just break the sandhi. So let's repeat it again. Ete chaturvidha purva.
Ete chaturvidha purva.
Kramashah nyunavrittayah.
Kramashah nyunavrittayah.
That'll be better. Okay. Then
We have it here, Ete Chaturvidaha Dehaha.
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so there is a alternate patha that Swami Maheswaranji also said. Eva iti va pathaha dhyaha dehaha kramasha patha vedaha. So yeah, both are okay.
Okay.
Then number 28, Brahmadistambh paryanta.
Brahmadistambh paryanta.
Swapna kalpa eva kalpana.
Swapna kalpa eva kalpana.
Sakshat krite anavachinna.
Sakshat krite anavachinna.
Prakasham paramatmani.
Prakashe paramatmani.
Anoho aniyan mahataha.
Anohaniyan mahataha.
Mahiyan iti vedavak.
Mahiyan iti vedavak.
Rudropanishad api evam.
Rudrapanishad evam.
Stauti sarvatmakam shivam.
Stauti sarvatmakam shivam.
Ishvaro gururatmeti.
Ishvaro gururatmeti.
Murti bheda vibhagine.
Murti veda vibhagine.
Vyomavat vyapta dehaya.
Vyomavat vyapta dehaya.
Dakshinamurtaye namaha.
Dakshinamurtaye namaha.
From number 26 to 30, this topic is summarized. So number 26 says, Shivaha Brahmadi Deheshu Sarvagyaha iti bhasate Deva Tiryang Manushyeshu Kinchit Gyaha Taratamyataha. So he says, Shivaha, which is just another synonym for Brahman. Brahman here, Shivaha, Sada Shivaha or Brahman, is pretty much the same. Expresses in the form of Brahma, etc. Brahma, Vishnu, Rudraha, Indraha, all these Mahadevas, etc. Brahmadi Dehishu Sarvagyaha. They have a lot of knowledge. They can see things. The way they are equipped to do, they can really create a whole set of things. They have a lot of insight. So what I was looking for, a lot of insight into the whole thing. Compared to that, then the ordinary devas or Tiryak. Tiryak means literally the horizontal ones. The ones that don't stand up but they crawl, including, for example, cats and dogs and so on and so forth. So their bodies are horizontal as opposed to vertical for whatever reason. Deva Tiryak Manushyeshu Kinchit Gyaha Taratamyataha. So they also have some knowledge, but compared to Brahmadi, etc., very, very little knowledge. We only know a few things here and there, that's it. But all of this is due to the changes in Upadhi, that's it. So, for example, for just Swami Maheswaranji has said that just Ghatarupi Upadhi. So there's a little, vessel space, and then you have an entire mountain space there inside the mountain, huge space. All of this is done is through Upadhi, but the Brahman itself doesn't change at all. So, really speaking, all the differences that you see, both in great people, great creations like Brahma, Vishnu, etc., are nothing but the upadhis of Brahman alone. And so the whole creation is done through upadhis. There is no change. As you know, this is vivarta upadana karana. So vivarta upadana karana means that there is change without changing. It's called vivarta. Without changing, the change is called vivarta. So without changing the space, you have a small room. You have a small space. When you travel, you are short of space. And the United Airlines is very careful. You cannot bring many more space. No. You can't say the whole space is mine. No. You cannot do that. You can just put some small space into the top. Or you can have, so similarly here, some people have huge homes, so 14 homes, 14-room homes. Some people have a single one-bedroom studio. All that is due to upadhis alone. There's no real differences between things and so on. Then, in verse number 27, he expands the Manushya Antiryam. Manushya Antiryam means that he does not take devas. Devas, even though Deva is included in the number 26, but here he just takes the Manushya and the animals and he divides that into 4 parts. And those are Jara Yuja, Andaja, Svedaja, Punaha Udbhidaha. So Jara Yuja means the ones that are born out of a woman's garbha. It's called Jara Yuja. And with the umbilical cord. So this is the one class of jivas. So placenta born jivas is number 1. The second one is born out of eggs, in the form of an egg. All the conception takes inside an egg, and then the egg breaks. So andaja. Andajaha means andam jayate yasya. It would be something like that. The one which is born out of anda is called andaja. Then the next one is Svedaja. Svedaja means that, Sveda means your sweat. And so the sweat gives rise to any kind of a food which is left, so germination, so germs. Svedaja means germs. Anything that germinates and gives rise to animals, Svedaja. And the last one is Udbhidaja, Udbhidaha. The ones who break the ground and come out through their force. So these are plants. And so these are following the Kinchit Gyaha Taratamyataha from the previous verse. So from the previous verse means that these are gradations of the limited knowledge, limited power. So out of these 4, the Jara Yuja is the most powerful, knows a lot. Mammals. Then you have Andaja is the next one. Less than that, in terms of their ability to do things and so on, is Svedaja. And finally, Udbhidaha are the least capable. In fact, so less capable they cannot move. So then you have not only one tree, wherever it germinates from the ground, it just stays there. It cannot move at all. Amazing. Just stays through. We have in our property we have a tree, which is a oak tree, and the people who know sometimes have told us that this is at least a couple of 100 years old. Very old tree, huge tree, still alive, and wonderful. I mean, 200 years. Can you believe? Old in our own property, in just a living property in somebody's property. And similarly there are trees all over. And so, but they cannot move. They have to stay at one place for 200 years. Cannot say, I am bored, I want to go to Hawaii. If somebody uproots it and takes it away, then it's okay, but otherwise they cannot move. So that is called Udbhidaha. And so these are the gradations that Ishvara has made. So in the next one, number 28, Brahmadi Stambha Paryanta Swapna Kalpa Eva Kalpana Sakshat Krite Anavachinna Prakashe Paramatmani. So Anavachinna Prakashe means, here's the translation given in the Hindi book is Trivida Paricheda Rahita Jnana Sarupaha. And so Trividha Paricheda, so we all have three kinds of limitations. Every human being, everything has three limitations. One limitation of time, the other is the limitation of space, and the third one is the limitation of being limited by other things. So, for instance, we are here at this point, but we are not there in the future. We don't know we'll be there in the future. We are certainly not there in the past. We are only here now. So now we have Kala Paricheda. We are limited by time. Desha Paricheda, very quickly, that really speaking, you are here, you cannot be every place else. You are only there at one place. And then, in addition to that, even if you are at one place and you are in one time, okay, I don't want to be everywhere, I don't want to be at different times. You cannot be anything else than what you are. You are not the table. Table limits you. Other people limit you. So all of us are limited by these three things. So this is what is called Trivida Paricheda. But this does not apply to Paramatmani Prakashe. Means the Prakasha of Paramatma. It does not apply. How does it not apply? Because the consciousness is not limited by any one of these three. It is not limited. There is only three kinds of limitations possible, and none of the three kinds limits Paramatma. And in fact, what it means is Paramatma is you also. You cannot say, now you can have a feeling that, just like saying, God is not with me. I have a lot of problem happening, and I don't know where God is. He is absent. He's absent doing things and so on and so forth. No. Because as the very Antaryami, as the very consciousness, there is only one consciousness, which is Paramatmani Prakashe. In Paramatmi Prakasha, which is consciousness, the self, the Satchidananda, please see that when you make any judgments about yourself, that I was young, and when I was doing my MBA, or when I was young, you are only referring to the body. You're not considering. In fact, the fact that you are recalling things from the past means you are the same person. What a beautiful thing, what a creation. That we are all different, but we are non-different. Vivarta upadana karana. You cannot really have a life. You cannot live. No growth, no transaction is possible if the fundamental common consciousness doesn't envelop everything. Even to say I was young means there must be the same consciousness. Because your identity between now and when you were young is done by consciousness, which doesn't change. You can say that my memory is fading, but memory is not consciousness. Memory is not consciousness. You can, even to say that my memory is fading needs an unchanging consciousness. And so, this is what is called anavachinne prakashe. And all the other, and so he says, so it's interesting, we can go on this, but in the interest of time, I want to limit this. So he says, just look at the verse, he says, let's look at the English translation, what does he say? On page 28. Yeah, these are words that are used by people who are not students of Vedanta, but anyway, what can you do? When the Paramatma of infinite light is intuitively realized, wrong word, intuition. Intuition, this is the same people that write that Vedanta is a philosophy. Words are important. It's not a philosophy. Philosophy and intuition means something funny. Not sure of what it is. This is my philosophy, means this is the way I look at it. And I'm not even sure the way I'm looking at it, but this is the way it is. That's okay. Our philosophy, you can say that our philosophy is that the country is in for some bad times. That some of the fundamentalism is going to come back. That's a philosophy. Whether you are correct or not is up to you. Anti-Semitism, all these kinds of things. This incident that happened in Jacksonville, what is it called?
Charlottesville.
Charlottesville, sorry.
Oh, that's terrible.
You see, it's a very significant one. Because what has happened is that many of these people who were ultra-right, they didn't have any support. Now they've got support. And that means it's a huge change. This is really, we are in for some very... So there you can make a judgment that the country is made out of, problems, this, that, or the other. You may be right, you may not be right, who knows? This is a philosophy. Or intuitively means that, I kind of feel that my intuition says, intuition means what? Philosophy. Some kind of I cannot really, this is not the words to use here. Sakshat krite and intuitive. Sakshat krite means very clearly. In fact, Swami Dayananda used to say that this is a very important thing you should see. He says that all knowledge, every knowledge that we have is subject to negation. Subject to negation. So the Newton was highly honored. My God, what a wonderful, how he has discovered the apple falling, and therefore how 32 feet per second, the gravitational force and so on and so forth. This is the one. Didn't last more than 100, 200 years. And so the Newtonian view was that space is like a stage upon which things are happening. By itself, it's just like in a space, in a stage. There is nothing happening in the space. But inside the space, there are things happening. This was his view. That means that the space is absolute. And Einstein debunked it completely. Says space is moving faster than you think. It's changing faster than you think. It is not a single entity. And it is not a stage where things are happening. It is in fact the things that are happening. There is relativity of the space itself. The light is also, nothing is final. So the knowledge is not final. And also another thing, the more you know, the more you understand how little you know. There is infinite knowledge, except for one thing, self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, once it is understood, cannot be transgressed. And it is very simple, because the vastu is very simple. And it's common, it's only one thing. But I don't know that very well. I have a wrong conception about it. But once I have a clear conception as me, this is what is called sakshat kriti, not intuitive. Just a soap opera on the wrong English. Many of these books are written by non-Vedantic students. They are panditas, they are good, maybe good Sanskrit scholars and so on and so forth. And they may take the help of some Swami here and there, but they don't have the time. They're not students. So they use words like that. Anyway, so let's just go on. When the Paramatma of infinite light is clearly seen, should be used. All creatures from Brahma down to the lowest plant melt into an illusion like unto a dream. Close to it. In other words, what you find is that all distinctions, that's what he means. That's a good way to do that. But certainly if he doesn't mean it, then that's the sentence itself. That all specifics about Brahmaji and Vishnu and Rudra, great ones, Indra, and this, that or the other, the sun and the moon and all the devatas and so on, that have such powerful presence in my life, they just become nothing but an upadhi of myself. Myself means they are the upadhi of Parameshwara, but my consciousness and Parameshwara's consciousness is the same. So you cannot say they are, you cannot say that the room space is my upadhi. The room space is the upadhi of space. There's only one space. And so really speaking, with respect to space, everything disappears. All distinctions disappear. And so, similarly, so he says that Kriya Nama Parispan. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? I got the wrong one.
28.
Yeah. Brahmadi Stamba Paryanta. So stump actually down to a blade of grass. In other words, the whole creation, from the highest to the lowest, all of them, and all of that becomes nothing but a sense of imagination, just like a dream is a kalpana. So similarly here, once the Brahman is understood, not before that, until you wake up from the dream does not stay as a dream. It looks like a reality. But once the clarity comes, which should come, that's our goal is. It will come. Once that comes, then you are not subject to any other forces. All the forces only are up to the anatma. Guna guneshu vartante. Not to the atma. The atma is independent of it. So that's what it means. Okay, so that's number 28. Then he points out that the same fact. So here again, always keep this thing in mind, that we always examine the veracity of what Vedanta teaches from three sources: Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhava. Shruti, Yukti, Anubhava. Shruti, Yukti, Anubhava. It should make sense to me. And so, yes, if you look at that, Atma is a different level of reality. Like all the Anatma are paricheda. They are all limited by these three types of limitations. But the consciousness is not one of them. You cannot say, I see the consciousness. Only way you can say, see, this is an important thing. So this is what is called proof, pramana. The only way you can say that the consciousness does not exist is to see the absence of consciousness. How are you going to see the absence of? Who is going to see the absence of consciousness? Consciousness is going to see the absence of consciousness. Not going to happen. It's natural. It's what the whole world is made out of. What the whole world comes out of. The whole world disappears into it. Consciousness. Brahman. And so, that Brahman is not subject to limitations whatsoever. When that becomes very clear, even a glimpse of that in your own mind. So what I was saying was that you have to examine it from three senses, three standpoints. One is yukti, shruti, shukti, and anubhava. So this is yukti. This is yukti. What is yukti? Means that the Atma is at a different level. You can say the gold is at a different level. It is not another ornament. You can compare ornaments, but you cannot compare gold with an ornament. It's a different level. So similarly here also, that once this is yukti. So what the yukti says is that even Brahma and Vishnu and Rudra and all these other things, they disappear. They only have they are only upadhis. Once it is sakshatkritam. So this is yukti. Now, one can have a little feeling, I don't know. Does does the Shruti, which is the very wisdom, does the Shruti says it? So at various points, Shruti quotations are given. This is one. Anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan iti Vedavak. In Kathopanishad. Smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. Which is another very interesting thing. How can any one thing be smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest? It can only be if it is the content of both the small and the big. So this is what it says. Anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan iti Vedavak. And Rudra Upanishad api evam stauti sarvatmakam shivam. So he says that at various points, even in Rudra Upanishad, Kathopanishad, lots of other places also, it continues to say it. It's a common theme. So this is what is called Upakrama Upasamhara. Upakrama Upasamhara means that if you have to say, is this what is being talked about? You examine it, you have to see how does it start? How does it end? And in between, does it keep repeating the same thing? Then you say that is the topic. And so yes, this is a topic that is repeated all over the Vedas. Anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan iti Vedavak. And then of course our famous verse that we say all the time in number 30. Ishvaraha Guru Atma iti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. That Dakshinamurti, which is Shiva, which is Brahman, which is Ishvara. So Ishvara here really means Brahman. So Ishvara is Ishvara that divides itself in the various upadhis. As the Sarveshwara, as the Parameshwara, as a Guru, as the Atma, as a Jivatma. So it has this huge play of differences. The same person plays different roles in a play. Same person. There is no difference. Ishvaro Gururatma iti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya. Means that just Vyoma here means the space. That wrapped in everything as the very space. Similarly here also, in the case of Atma. So really speaking, any experience that you have must have consciousness in it. And it does. Any experience of anyone must involve Atma. It's like saying, in the very world of golden ornaments, any ornaments is made out of gold alone. That's common to all the ornaments of the gold. Similarly here also, just like you have Deva, Tiri and Manushya, Guru, Ishvara, Atma. Atma here means Jivatma, Jivaha really. Or you can even say, the Vritti. So Atma here doesn't mean Atma really here means Dakshinamurti. But Atma here means, in the first part of the verse, Atma here means the Antakarana, the mind. So Ishvara, Guru, as the mind, etc., etc. They are Murti Bheda. Murti Bheda means they're all made out of gold, but one is made like a Ganesha. It looks different, but it's all the same gold, not any different. And so with that, it ends, iti Shri Dakshinamurti Stotrartha Pratipadike Prabandhe Manasa Ullase Prathama Ullasaha Sangraha. So now the first verse is finished. So what we will do from next week is do some intelligent revision, as we promised. We will, I'll think about exactly what to do. We will involve some meditation. We will involve some quick revision, so you have a better picture of the main topic of it. And then perhaps I might even ask you to either write an essay or give you some tests to answer, so that the comprehension becomes very clear in your mind. So we will probably take the next 2 or 3 classes just to summarize, to revise, and to clarify the first verse, which is Vishwam Dappana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam. And then having done that, then we will embark on the second verse. Okay, so with that, I'll close the class and invite any questions. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya
Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
One thing we might do is to leave a message for people that may be actually listening or watching, that if you do need a copy of this Dakshinamurti that Shankara and Sandhya have brought, then please send me an email, vijaykapoor@gmail.com, and then we do have some extra copies, and we're very happy to send that to you. Yes.
In the last class, we talked about the Ichha Shakti and the 2 types of Ichha Shakti and Kriya Shakti. And in the Ichha Shakti, the one which is not preceded by the desires, one that is preceded by the Kamana. So that is the... So the Ichha Shakti of Ishvara has the second one, the one by the Kamana, and the one with the desires is the Jivatma.
Not in that manner. The Ichha Shakti also comes from Ishvara alone, of course. The ability to desire comes from Ishvara. So both of them are originating from the same source, just like Gyan Shakti and Kriya Shakti. But then, and I think in common with other things also, the Ichha Shakti is really up to the individual to do. So it's not as though, so there one can say the distinction would be, and when we revise it, we will look at it in more detail at that time. But my recollection is that the 2 types of Ichha Shakti, the one which is prarabdha. Prarabdha based means that when we take a shape as a human being, it is also according to my own Ichha Shakti from the previous janmas, right? But then I get confused between what is prarabdha and what I am now creating new ones, which continue to extend my limited existence and creates problems for me. So in a way it is like, once you know that this engine is out of control, the best thing is to shut it off. And yes, the momentum of the previous engine's will continue for a while. It's not going to completely come to a stop all of a sudden, even though I've shut off the engine. But at least now I can see it coming to a stop and then put some brakes on if I want to and so on, and hopefully avoid any accidents. If I see something, 2 miles from there and I start to shut the engine off and brakes, and hopefully it'll come to a stop. But if I don't know that, then I can continue to work on it. So the second type of Ichha Shakti is where my sense of Kamana and Sankalpa has not diminished. And what it is asked us to do is to say that please see that you are making the same mistake over and over again. And so stop it, stop the engine, and devote your scarce energies towards understanding what is happening. Who are you? Where are you going? Where did you come from? And if you do that, you go to the very source of it, then you have a better chance of understanding, like a wave of the ocean, that you are really indestructible water itself. You don't have to keep doing things. Otherwise, like a wave, you don't like yourself as a wave, you want a bigger wave, and so on. So all kinds of problems that occur. So that's how the delineation of the Ichha Shakti, the two aspects of the Ichha Shakti.
Could you explain that Kriya Shakti? I got the Parinama, but I didn't get the Parispanda.
So Parispanda, with the basic of that, it's a little tough one there, I agree. What it's saying is that the Kriya is also changes in your Jnanam. It is preceded by knowledge. So it is really nothing but a form of knowledge. Form of, even the Kriya is nothing but so the Kriya itself is Sthula Sharira, but the changes in the Kriya are brought in by the Sukshma Sharira. So in that manner, it is nothing but Jnanam alone. So example, in the case of a dream was a good one. Every time you have a doubt here, just go to the dream side. In the dream, you can have a Jnanam, where you meet someone that you don't like, and you say, oh my God, what is he doing here? And then supposing you have a fight with that person, and you're pushing that person and saying, what are you doing in this house? You should get out of here. So that's a Kriya. So that Kriya in the dream is also basically your Jnanam. You're creating a body for yourself, you're creating some disturbance and so on and so forth. There's no real disturbance. You do not create any real body that you can keep after the dream is over. The whole thing disappears. So in the dream also, your actions of thinking and actions of doing, all of them are nothing but your Jnanam alone. Ultimately, it is nothing but just, it all dissolves. It's not a separate, it's not like the Kriya where you can, the only thing that happens sometimes is that you might slap yourself and then you wake up and you say, oh my gosh, it's a possibility. But other than that, there is nothing is left out of it. So that's basically what the Kriya Shakti was saying. Yeah.
In verse 28, you said you have the three limitations, space, time, and the third one what?
Anyonya, limitation of one object versus the other. Yeah.
And the same on the verse 28, Sakshat Krite, we didn't feel that translation was appropriate. But we had read this in our main keywords, the first
Mm-hmm.
shloka also. Right?
Sakshat.
Right. And there they said it was a direct manifestation. This is on page 13.
Yeah.
Right? So is there a shared meaning between
Yeah, Sakshat Kritam is the same. Aparoksha Sakshat, this is the two words used. There's some slight differences between them that Swami Maheshananji has explained someplace else. I will bring that in at the appropriate time. But what it means is that we discussed it in, I think, the beginning of the Mandukya Upanishad that you don't come to.
Right.
But there, the difference between Sakshat Karanam, Aparokshat Sakshat Karanam, should be understood to be not bookish knowledge and experience, but vague knowledge and clear knowledge. So the example that I had given in the beginning of the Mandukya Upanishad was, if you recall, those of you that were there, Denver. So when you may know, you've never been to Denver, but you may know something about Denver. It is at 5,000 feet high, etc., etc. So this is what is called Paroksha Jnanam.
Right.
But if you happen to be there and you actually take a tour bus and you got also the most thing, that is called Aparoksha Jnanam. So similarly, at this point we are mostly in Paroksha Jnanam. We don't have a Sakshat Kritam. But slowly, through your own practices and your meditation and teaching, thinking, Shravanam, Mananam, you start to get glimpses of, my goodness, wow, this is the Atma, this is who I am. And that is what is called Sakshat Kritam. Directness. So that is what is called same knowledge. Denver doesn't change.
Right.
But you had looked at it rather in a very vague manner. You saw some pictures in a magazine called Paroksha Jnana. Whereas if you are there, then it is Aparoksha Jnana. So similarly here also the Atma, as opposed to being relatively distant from me. Not as though I don't believe in it. I understand it, but not clearly enough. So that clarity gives rise to anubhava. You can even say an experience as part of that. Is what is called.
So could it be direct experience of God?
Yeah. So you can say that. It's in a way that is correct, because we have the experience even now, but we just don't understand it. And
intuitively, clearly, is a more of a body-mind connection. Body-mind. The term intuition is function of more of body-mind phenomena.
More than that, intuition means lack of clarity. That's intuition means. I'm not sure. I kind of feel it that way. That's what intuition.
I feel like.
And the same thing is philosophy. The word philosophy comes from the Greek word philo or something, which means to know. But the present usage of philosophy is very different. You can say, that's your philosophy, I don't believe in it. You cannot say that, the laws of physics is your philosophy.
Yeah.
That's knowledge.
Right.
So Vedanta, when people say this is Vedanta is the Indian philosophy, this is wrong. It is knowledge. So that's why I thought the word intuition also has the same lack of definiteness. Yeah.
One suggestion for revision, I just want to give my
sure.
input. We have the main verse, the first verse, right? And then we have the Manusavalasa, 30 shlokas, right? It will be very helpful to build a bridge between.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're saying. I've thought about it. Yeah.
Individually, if we read one sloka,
Quite
of
right.
one sura,
No, I agree with you.
That makes sense.
I agree with you. Even these commentaries need further interpretation to link it.
Exactly.
Also,
It's
like,
clear to them, but
I have seen all the dictionaries that I had on this just one sloka only.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But let's see how I have to think about it. Yeah.
when we are doing the karikas, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we did twice Dakshinamurti Stotram Vijay and Swami TV
Mhm.
and everything. And
Not
when we
Karika,
put-
Manasavada.
I mean, sorry, Manasula.
Yeah.
When we do the commentary on this
Mhm.
one, okay, I have tough time just connecting as you know
Mhm.
with the shloka actually, and what is the purpose of.
Yeah, so this is
Doing
what we
this.
have to do in our revision, is to
Okay.
see. Yeah, he's saying the same thing, and then,
Yeah.
Some of the shlokas have very direct connection,
yeah,
but some of them
Yeah.
you feel you are thrown away from the
Yeah.
main verse.
yeah, I know.
But I think it's more about the bigger purpose, right? Like,
Yeah, higher purpose, right?
Well, I think part of it is that, it's kind of like, when you go in to buy a car and the salesman says, they'll never say, what, do you want to buy this car or not? They'll say, what color of the car do you want to buy? Okay?
Or what features.
So what it means in the context of this is that you first go into a lot of specific details about this, but then you have to
Conclude something.
conclude something. I agree with that. So I'm with you. That's why I thought that instead of going forward, we need to sort of recollect what, and we will do. I'll see. It's not going to be an easy thing to do, but I'll try my best to do it. All right.